This is Dr. Serge King bringing you a development tape entitled Living in the Light. There is a phenomenon that is taught all around the world, in every culture, almost every culture that I'm aware of. And this phenomenon has to do with something called, it goes by various terms, but it's usually called the white light. And it has to do with surrounding yourself with the white light. In Huna, the term for it, as used by the Kahunas, was called La'a Kea. And a decent translation is the sacred white light. Okay? Carries a sense of whiteness, of brightness, of clarity, of anything like that. Okay? The sacred white light. Okay. Now this light is not the same kind of physical light that we get directly from the sun. You could almost say, and you might want to say it's an imaginary light, except that it is very real. It is sometimes called etheric light, sometimes called astral light. It is a real light, but just outside the range of physical perception. For most people, that is. It's possible to put yourself into a state of mind where you can see this light, but for most people it remains something that you see only in the mind's eye. Well, that's very nice to talk about a white light and to, call it a sacred white light and everything like that, but what's it good for? In some systems, of course, this would never be a consideration, but in Huna, that's one of the first things a Kahuna would ask. What's it good for? Because all the knowledge is applied and directed toward our daily lives, our lives here while we're living on Earth. And if the knowledge doesn't have any practical benefit in living and helping us to be healthier and happier and achievers, why then, put it aside, and if somebody wants to engage in it as a hobby, fine, but other than that, let it go. But no, the white light is very practical, extremely practical. In Huna, out of all the different kinds of knowledge that there are, we talk about the core knowledge dealing with mana, okay, the life energy. But if we're going to get a use of mana, which this light is, if there's anything you could learn possibly, if you were going to give up everything else and learn one thing and focus on developing and training yourself and learning to perfect or do well one thing in Huna, it would be the use of the La'a Kea, the white light, above everything. Now why? What is it used for? What can be done with it? This light, and you'll be learning how to actually apply it in different ways, but this light can be used in an active way, in a passive way. This light can be used for protection or for projection. This light can be used for yourself alone, for your belongings, for people you love, for people you don't love. However, when you use it for people you don't love, you'll be using it in a very positive way. This light, I can say personally, this light has saved me on numerous occasions. It has saved me physically from leaving this earth before I felt I was ready. It has saved me from danger. This light has saved me from despair. It has saved me from feelings of lack of confidence. It has saved me from all kinds of different emotional states. It has been in my life of a very, very practical use. And so it can be in yours. When we're talking about the light, we're talking about using your different senses to imagine yourself surrounded in some way with a white light. Now, it doesn't have to be white like milk. It can be a clear light or any kind of a sense that you have a light. Let me give you some of the ways in which people do this, and then we'll get on to some of the ways in which it's used. I'm going to give you some simple ways to use it first, some of the ways in which this can be used to great benefit, and then some deeper ways to use it. Some of the ways in which to set it up. What you do basically is imagine that you are surrounded by a white light. And it is not important the exact fashion in which you do this. Give me, for instance, one of the easiest ways is to imagine that sunlight is coming down. You've all seen sunlight breaking through the clouds. And you see those beams and rays of sun coming through, sometimes in beautiful paintings, sometimes lovingly in nature, but you see the sun breaking through like that. Or sometimes in a forest you might see it coming down through the leaves, especially in the early morning or late afternoon. All right, that same kind of image of the light is something that you can imagine coming down from the heavens above you and shining all around you. And so it can be white, it can be sort of a golden white, whatever's easiest to imagine. But you can imagine coming down around you like that, so that it completely surrounds you. You can also imagine it like a spotlight. If anybody's ever been on stage, then that becomes an easy one. You imagine that right above your head there is a spotlight coming down, and that shines there all around you. Some people are able to imagine themselves within a transparent egg. Now the idea here, of course, is that the light is a manifestation of your own aura. By focusing your attention on it, you intensify it. And by other ways of building it up too. But by focusing your attention on it, you begin to intensify it. And so you can surround yourself almost in the shape of the aura, if you like, which for most people who see that say is generally egg-shaped. So you can imagine yourself surrounded by a transparent egg. You can imagine yourself surrounded by a cloud or fog. You can imagine yourself, some people I know, and there are particular reasons for doing this, some people will imagine it something like egg-shaped all around them, but with a reflective outer surface. I'll tell you why. That's done in a moment. I know one person who created, and all of this is done with the imagination, okay? It doesn't matter. It doesn't make it less real. With the imagination, you can make it in any form you like, and your subconscious, which is in charge of this energy field that is around you, will take that imagination and translate it into the nearest equivalent of giving you protection or projection or whatever it is you want the light to do. So this one friend of mine imagined that right about the level of his shoulders he had something like an axle coming out, and then he had a fluorescent tube attached to that bent around. If it bent around from one shoulder around to the other shoulder, it would be in the shape of a horseshoe. And then when he flipped a switch on the top of his head, why, this fluorescent tube would go spinning around him like a jump rope. And it would spin so fast that he was completely surrounded by light. So that was kind of neat. And it worked for him, which is most important. Some people use, and there are good reasons for doing this too, some people use a pyramid. Imagine that either there is a pyramid over their head, a pyramid of light over their head, or that the pyramid is all the way around them and they're standing within it. And then some people change that and make it into a transparent crystal, which you might think of as two pyramids, one which comes down to about their waist, with a point at the top above their head, and the other one with a point below their feet that comes up and meets that one. So that they have a crystal, octagon crystal shape. And people feel that they're within the light when they can imagine that. Now, as I say, there's all kinds of various ways to do this and very flexible ways to do it. These are some of the simple ways in which you can imagine the light around you. Now, why, in heaven's name, would you want to go to all that trouble? Why would you want to bother? All right. First and foremost, and I do mean, foremost, it's important to understand that telepathy is a fact. It is everybody is broadcasting out their thoughts and their emotions all the time, 24 hours a day. If you have a belief, if you have any thoughts, if you have any ideas that go, beliefs and things that go through your mind, expectations, desires, feelings, that go through you, all of these are being broadcast out of you. They have an electromagnetic reality. And you are like a transmitting station, broadcasting all of these out. And you are also like a receiving station, receiving all of these thoughts and feelings and desires, beliefs and expectations and so forth from all the other people around you. Unfortunately, you were created with a kind of a natural protection so that you're not affected by everything. If everybody were affected by everybody else's thoughts, the world would have been decimated a long time ago. But we do have a natural protection. Nevertheless, there are some times when you are affected by the thoughts of other people, the thoughts and the feelings especially. Some of these times when you are affected by these thoughts and feelings, you think that they're your own. And they are often not. You cannot be affected by anybody else's thoughts or feelings unless there is something in you that corresponds to it, however slightly. Okay? If you don't have anything inside you that corresponds to somebody else's thoughts and feelings, you will not pick up any effect from theirs. But let's say that, I'm going to view this in an arbitrary intensity scale of 1 to 10. Let's say that you have a belief in, let's say you have a weak belief, a belief about weakness. That's only about a 1 intensity. It's not very strong, hardly bothers you at all, and you almost never feel it. But it's there. Maybe it came about because of something a parent said to you when you were a child or something, but it doesn't give you any problem. All right, one day, either you go into a room, let's say, and there's somebody else in that room, you don't even know them. Now, because of something that's going on in their life, on this same weakness belief, they're at an intensity of 9. And you don't know that. You don't know that. But your your subconscious knows it. Your subconscious is aware of this. That other person's 9, which is really powerful, will contact your 1 intensity, activate it, amplify it, up to a 4 or 5, let's say. You suddenly get an anxiety attack and don't know why. Can't think of anything. You might go through your mind, what happened? Was it because of what so-and-so said today, or because of what I did? You may go blaming yourself or blaming somebody else. And all it had to do with was somebody else in the room who was undergoing something that related to something in you. Yes?
I was going to say, wouldn't you only go, if you hypothetically were going to have an anxiety attack from it, wouldn't that only be if the 9 of the other party was negative?
Well, I'm talking about a weakness belief. I said a weakness belief, okay? Certainly the thing works the other way, too. If you were feeling kind of low, but you had a 1 intensity strength belief, and you walk into a room with somebody who's got their strength belief going at a 9, why, of course, that would reflect and amplify yours and make you feel stronger, make you feel better. This is why some people, when you're around them, do make you feel better. Because of their beliefs and the relation of their beliefs to yours. Yeah, it can work both ways. But you see, the beautiful thing is, for that, you don't have to do anything. You just enjoy that. However, for the negative stuff, because it is so prevalent in this world, in this society, and because almost nobody is taught anything to do about it, it is important. It does become vital, because there's so many people walking around going through all kinds of mood changes, going through all kinds of self-blaming, going through all kinds of therapy to find out why they're feeling depressed, when all they are is sensitive to their environment. And once they learn how to neutralize or desensitize themselves to that input, the change can be phenomenal. A person who may have been years in a semi or completely depressed state can learn finally what happiness is, which is a normal state. once they learn how to shut out or block off or neutralize this incoming negative input. Now, it's important to realize that regardless of the source of this, let's call it negative input, it might be, like I said, from someone else in a room that you walk into. It could be from somebody in your life that you relate to. It could be a parent, a relative, a close friend. It could be somebody on the other side of the earth that you will never meet or see, but who shares the same belief system to a degree. So it could come from any place. It can also come from a very strong energy environment that you go into feeling slightly negative, and even that will amplify. For instance, one of the common ways would be under a positive ion situation. And in California, we have something called the Santanas, or the Santa Ana wind. In other parts of the world, there are similar things. In Switzerland, it's called the Fun. In Africa, it's called the Harmattan. In Southern Europe, it's the Scirocco. There are various names in various parts of the world for this phenomenon, where these high, hot winds come rushing into a high-pressure system, and there's a great abundance of positive ions, a very high energy. Now, the fact is, some people under that high energy intensity feel very much alive. It really stirs them up. Others have tremendous depression, irritability, sometimes headaches, other physical symptoms. It depends on the state of their beliefs. This high energy in itself is neutral. But when those people go into it, it amplifies the dominant beliefs. And if the dominant ones are negative or weak, whatever they are, then those are what will be amplified. This can happen even under certain astrological aspects. When you have energy coming from the planets or the stars in particular forms or fashions or degrees or angles, if you like, that can produce a high energy effect, which in itself is totally neutral, but will affect you according to your dominant prevailing beliefs at the time. But you're not at the mercy of all of these energies. Not at all. You learn how to surround yourself with the light, and you neutralize those effects. Instantly. Get that? Instantly. I can recall one time, I was going through a couple days, this was a period where I knew about the light, but it's like, you learn about something and then you put the book back on the shelf and you don't pay too much attention to it anymore for a while. You play with it for 2-3 days and then you let it go. All right, so I started feeling depressed. I mean, really depressed. I was sitting there, thoughts of suicide. What is this? And I'm going through and where am I at? What's going on? And I was really feeling bad. And then something, good old inner voice, urged me to imagine myself surrounded by light. As soon as I did that, instantly all those symptoms went away. Now, clearly I would never have had symptoms in the first place unless there was something in me which wasn't feeling too good at that time. But this amplified it all out of proportion. And as soon as I surrounded myself with the light, I was happy. There was actually a feeling of happiness came welling up. And that was instantaneous. And this has happened to everybody that I've ever taught this to. Surrounding yourself with the light, if there's anything in this world which is magical, that's it. We've done experiments right here, some of you have participated in them, where you've experienced the feeling or the actual physical recognition of getting weakened by fluorescent light. A lot of people are very concerned about fluorescent light. What you also experienced, those of you who did it, was that the moment you surrounded yourself with light, even in the presence of that fluorescent light, the effects of that fluorescent light disappeared. Instantly. Instantly. You're not at the mercy of any of these energies. Now, what I was about to say a little while back was, and when these thoughts and these negative input is coming in, you must realize that it is about 99 and 99/100% unintentional. It's just the automatic broadcasting going out by people the way they are, and they don't even know they're broadcasting it. And it isn't their fault. There's nothing you can do to stop the broadcasting except change your attitude or change your mind or, begin focusing on something else. But these people, it's just doing it. They're not doing it on purpose. They're not trying to get you. Some people talk about something called psychic vampires. That's a load of nonsense. There ain't no such animal. There are some people who seem to give that effect because when you're around, they are so negative that when you're around them, your system tries to close up to protect itself, and you begin to feel, let's say, weak, tired, drained is the term usually used, but nothing has been drained. What has happened is that you have tensed up, and in that tensing up, felt weaker. If even under their input or their presence, you were able to surround yourself with light and totally relax, you'd have no effect from them whatsoever. Whereas if they were really psychic vampires draining energy, the more energy you put around yourself, the more they drain off. But it doesn't work like that. Not at all. And when all you have to do is try the light, and you will find that out immediately. And I said before, when some people surround themselves with this light, they'll do it, let's say, like an egg shape. And they'll have a reflective surface on the outside. Now, part of the reason for doing that is to give themselves, to give their own subconscious, their coup, the concept that whatever is negative is coming in and reflecting back. And like it has a mirror surface on the outside, so nothing sticks. It just goes, boom, bounces back. All right, that's fine. That's fine. And if that works for the person, that's great. You can also, if the light's shining down in whatever form or around you, you can imagine that whatever negative energy is coming in is either neutralized or transformed into good stuff. I'll give you a little technique later on for a system that you can use for building up the light and making it something real for yourself. But these are a number of the ways that can be done. Now I know that most people who are teaching about the light in some fashion or another. They teach you to put the light around yourself before you meditate. Put the light around yourself perhaps if you are going to meet anybody who is negative. Put the light around yourself maybe when you're going to sleep. Then I tell you to practice this, a few different special times. I'm going to tell you something different. I'm going to tell you that if you really want to achieve the maximum benefits from this, and the benefits are so fantastic, you've got to experience them yourself. If you want to achieve the maximum benefits from this, you will learn as a habit to have this light around you all the time. That every time, that a part of your mind will have this going all the time. It takes practice to do. Sure it does. But it can be done. But all the time. So that you walk around and you live with this light all the time. Because the fact of the world, it's got nothing to do with being scared, but it's the way the world is. There's a lot of negative people in this world. They don't know any better. But they're putting it out. And you don't know when or where. It's not in any particular one place. You are just as susceptible when you are fully conscious as you are when you're meditating. You don't become any more susceptible when you meditate. As you know, you can walk along being very conscious and suddenly have a mood change. Suddenly have a sharp pain in your body. I know some of you have experienced that once in a while. Without any apparent cause, a sharp pain comes through. That's the same kind of thing. Your body is reacting to some negative energy that's coming in. And it's got nothing to do, usually, with anything that's inside of you. Here's the test. You put a light around yourself, and it changes how you feel. The pain goes away, or your mood gets better. You know it's stuff coming from outside. If you put a light around yourself and there is absolutely no change whatsoever, no diminishing or no elimination, then you know it's coming from inside. Real simple. And so, it always pays to put the light around yourself. It tells you immediately where you're at. And of course, there are ways to intensify that. We've been talking primarily about using the light as protection, and that's what we'll emphasize here on this side. To protect you from being affected by all the negative energy. Even when you get yourself in a bad mood, even a slight one, or maybe a real strong one, any mood that you get yourself into is going to be amplified by anybody around you who has something similar. And not only that, the stronger your mood gets in a negative way, the more you're going to be affecting somebody around you too that you don't know about, and maybe halfway on the other side of the earth. Of course, the better mood that you're in, you're going to be affecting the people around you in a better way too. And just by putting up the light around you, you are automatically putting out the thought that you are protected. And if you put out the thought that you are protected, somebody else somewhere is going to get the idea that they're protected, even on a subconscious level. So putting the light around yourself, every time you do it, is helping somebody else, even in an automatic way, even if they've never heard of the light. Just the thought of that going out will affect somebody at some level and help them that little bit. So even when you're using it for protection, you're not doing it selfishly, you're not doing it for yourself. The human mind being so tremendously creative, when you're putting the light up around you for protection, use a little bit of discretion. I know of one woman who was going to put up the light around because she had a negative supervisor in an office where she worked. And every time the supervisor came in and talked to her, well, she'd get all anxious and shook up and couldn't work. So she decided, boy, she was really going to put this light around her. She was going to put this light around her, nothing was going to get through. So she did. She was at her desk and put the light around her and really worked on it with full concentration. The supervisor walked in and said, nothing. The girl couldn't hear her. Her mouth was going, and the girl had succeeded in convincing herself that this thing was so strong that she wasn't even registering sound. Now, sound was actually going through, but it wasn't getting to her brain. Okay? So she kind of overdid it a little bit. You don't have to go that far.
Wouldn't it be more effective instead of surrounding yourself with a white light, to turn the negative quality surrounding them with a white light?
That's another step. That's another step that we'll use when we start getting on the other side of this tape. Okay? Okay. Yes, it was mentioned on the other side of this tape, the idea of putting the light around somebody else. Okay, now this is a very creative way to begin using the light. Very creative. Because you can put, with your same imagination that you're putting this light around yourself, you can put this light around anybody else or anything else. And start protecting it, sometimes in a slightly different way. Not only from negative thoughts and feelings, but also from negative influences of any kind, negative being whatever you happen to call negative. Let me give you an instance. Some instances. Okay? One of the popular ways in which to use this light is to put it around your car. It's a very good practice. What it does is help protect your car. It helps to protect it against accidents. It helps to protect it, almost make it invisible sometimes to traffic cops. You can't push that, okay? You go doing 60 miles an hour through a stop sign, and I don't care what kind of white light you have, if there's a cop right there, he'll probably be able to see through it. But nevertheless, in many instances, it helps to eliminate any positive thing, because the thing that's attracting either a policeman or anybody else like that to you is some fear or guilt inside of you. When you put the light up around you, then you eliminate that. And you eliminate that kind of attraction. When you put the light around your car, then you're helping against accidents and things. You can put the light around your car if you're parking someplace. I know some people do this so they don't get tickets. And it works to a great extent. It'll work to the extent that you believe in it. which can be considerable. But mostly the people use it so that they don't get bumped or accidents or things like that, and it's very good. If something does happen to the car, then it happens at just the right place and the right time. You know, like if something has to go out, it'll go out and it won't be so inconvenient. You can put it around people. I recall one person, see, very often we have friends, we have relatives, children, and when we're away from them, we feel very helpless. So what can we do? They're under bad influences maybe we're afraid of, or they're way over on the other side of the country and we don't feel we can do anything, we start feeling helpless. As soon as we start feeling helpless and powerless, then we get weaker and then more susceptible to anybody else who's feeling helpless and powerless, and we can go into depression. You know, it can really build up. You need never feel helpless or powerless again, because now you can put the light around your child, around your relative, around your friend, wherever they happen to be. I helped change this one woman's life around simply by doing that. When she learned how to do it and learned the effect it was having, well, she was having a lot of psychosomatic symptoms related to her feelings of helplessness about not being able to do something for her child. She put the light around him. She had something to do. It brought back feelings of competence, which helped her mood and helped her confidence, okay, and then changed her whole fear system. Now, when you put the light around somebody else, this is like giving somebody an inspiration or a suggestion, a very light suggestion, which they are free to follow or not. You cannot put the light around somebody and coerce them or make them do anything. It just doesn't work. However, most people automatically will tend to appreciate, even subconsciously, appreciate and move toward anything which helps them to become stronger, healthier, and happier. So when you do put the light around somebody, you're just putting that light of protection. They are taking that, they're receiving that thought on a subconscious level and amplifying it to the extent that they want to. Which, as I say, because most people want to be healthy, happy, and strong, they usually do. And it does have an effect. If you begin to use this and use it frequently, it will have a great effect. You can put it around belongings sometimes. Let's say you're in a situation where you have to leave some belongings in a place where there is some risk that they might be taken. You put the light around them, and chances are they will not be bothered. We've done that all the time. For every instance that I've used it, it has worked. It's another very good way to use the light. Now, we talked about negative people. Yes, you can put the light, for instance, around yourself as well as around someone else that you know is negative if you have to go and meet with them or deal with them. And just doing that will alter the relationship and change the effect of that person on you, and may even change their own attitude and behavior. May or may not, but it may. But at least it helps them and helps you, so you're not trying to separate yourself from them. If you get into using the light as a complete protective system, just enclosing yourself in, you're limiting yourself unnecessarily. I do not recommend using it like that. If you're going to put it around yourself for protection, when you're going to meet or deal with somebody you consider negative, then put it around them too. That links you in a positive way and keeps you from that isolation. Okay? All right. Now I'm going to introduce you into a little different use of the light, which has to do with projection. We've talked about protection primarily up to now. This next part has to do with projection, where you are using the sacred light, you're actually emitting the sacred light, as if you were a source of it. The others, you can have the light coming down around you. It can be coming from God or from the heavens or anything you like. However, in Huna, we teach that God is inside. God is in you. And so the source of this light then is in you. And a good place for this source to come out of you is from your chest. Your chest, which is your identity center, your energy center. If you imagine a source of light, like a miniature sun or a star or some of the other ways in which I'll give you, coming out from there and radiating all around you. Now, admittedly, this may take practice. You may find it easier to surround yourself with some of the techniques we did beforehand. That's great. Nothing wrong with that at all. I'm giving you now something to work toward. And even, you can even use some of the other systems in this same way if you like. But this is a little more advanced. When you start emitting that light from inside, and this is something to practice and work toward until you find it easier. You'll find the energy effect of it much greater. All right, so projecting. Okay, you're projecting here energy. Even if you're putting the light around you, if you imagine it as an energy field, and that energy field radiating outward and affecting the world and the environment around you. If you imagine the light in the form of a pyramid, for instance, a pyramid has energy. It radiates or generates energy. You will find your own energy picking up. Here you're using the light not just to protect yourself from negative influence, but to re-energize yourself. It can be used then in a healing way. You can put this pyramid over someone else's head or someone else's whole body, and you will not only be giving them that sense of protection, but you will help to be energizing their whole system as well. All right, so that's one way. Now, I'm going to give you a few different ways of relating the light to emotions, to positive emotions. And to make this light just as real as possible by using all of your senses. We're going to go through 7 colors, including white, of the spectrum, and show you how you can use the light with color and get different effects. Now, since light is energy and emotion is energy, we're going to equate the two in that way. I know that colors have been associated with many, many different kinds of things. From a practical level, I found that it's most useful and effective on a personal level, on an energy level, to associate the light with different emotions. All right, so let's start with red and some of the associations that we can make. A visual association, of course, you can have red in any shade that you like. Purely visual, I mean, like if you were using the cloud or the fog or the sunlight coming down or with a star coming out from yourself. Purely visual representation. It can be a pink, it can be a bright, brilliant carmine red, it can be a blood red, it can be any kind of red that you like, that you feel. The deeper, the clearer the red, the pure red it is, the stronger the energy effect, because the emotion it's associated with is passion. This can range from, real sexual passion if you want to. If anybody wants to enhance a love-making relationship, surround yourself and your partner with a brilliant, vibrant red, and you will have quite an interesting experience. Or you can carry it into a pink, which would be a passion more on the nature of friendship or affection. But make it very strong. It would really enhance that. Surrounding yourself and your environment and other people, you can project this energy, you can project this field of yours out as far as you like. It does not have to be an inch or 2 or a foot around your body. It can fill a room, it can fill a neighborhood, an entire building if you like. I'd be a little careful filling an entire building with passionate red, but you can experiment and see what happens if you want to. Keep it positive. Give me a field report, right. Keep it positive. All right, this is passion in a very positive sense here. It relates also to feelings of courage. It relates to feelings of strong confidence. That's what this kind of passion is that I'm talking about. Okay. Some of the other ways, visually, that you can represent it. I like to use flowers. So that sometimes you can imagine yourself not just surrounded by a red light, but surrounded by red roses or red carnations. Sometimes for the imagination, this is a lot easier to do. You can imagine a red carnation or a red rose in the center of your chest, and you can imagine these red flowers all the way around you, and it makes a beautiful mental image that's a lot easier sometimes to keep around you than just a pure light or a pure energy field. But you want to use your other senses as well. The sense of smell can be of great help here. You can imagine different smells. And you can imagine the smell of roses or carnations. But you can use some other smell. Some people don't visualize too well. No problem. You use something else. Strawberries, the smell of strawberries. And you might bring in, tactile or taste sensations in here to help you too. The taste of strawberries could give you a good sense that the field is around you now in red. And the smell of strawberries, or the smell of a rose. Or the smell of cinnamon red hots. And the taste of those, depending on the nature of the red that you want to use. But you bring in that kind of sensation as well. All right, let's move into orange. With orange, the emotion is enthusiasm. And orange relates to physical energy a great deal. In other words, an orange light around you will really stir up your physical energy if you let it, if you allow it, if you encourage it, and if you associate the emotion with the light with in that emotion of enthusiasm, really getting charged up, really getting energized. And you can have California golden poppies all around you if you want to do it with a flower image. If you want the smell of an orange, perhaps, or the smell of a peach, the smell of a mango, whatever thing which is orange, or the taste of any one of those as well, if you want to bring in as many of the feelings and sensations as you can. But you can use this kind of thing. If you play sports, that's terrific. If you are doing any kind of sales, promotion, or selling anything, or trying to carry across an idea, you can surround yourself with orange. If you're trying to help somebody else be more enthused about a project, you can fill them and fill the room with orange. In whatever way is easiest for you. Yeah, that's a good one. It's one way to project this energy then. And from orange we can go to yellow. Yellow is associated with the emotion of happiness. Cheerfulness, happiness, joyfulness. Happiness in general is the emotion associated. And there are all kinds of, again, other associations that can help you to create the real sense of this as a living reality. You can have canaries flying around and singing around inside of your aura, inside of this energy field that you create. You can imagine canaries flying all around the room and sitting on other people's shoulders. If that doesn't make you laugh, I don't know. You can imagine anything you want like that. As far as a smell and kind of thing, lemons, lemon pie, any other kind of yellow thing that you could think of which would give you that kind of a connotation would be something to enhance the effect of that light field. Yellow is very good. I have sat down with people, with friends, and let's say we've been at a restaurant, maybe eating or having some coffee or something like that, and I always use the white, which we'll get to. I always use the white in general, and then I fill the white with the color. And sometimes I'll do it as a dome over us, and sometimes as a pyramid, and sometimes just as a fog, and sometimes filled with flowers, whatever strikes my fancy. You don't have to choose just one. But I do notice this, that when I do that, very, very shortly after doing this, spontaneously on their own, people will start smiling more, laughing a little more, telling a few jokes maybe. The whole feeling of the place will lighten up. If I turn it off, they go back. If I turn it on again, they lighten up and start laughing again. Okay? Yes?
In other words, break down the barriers or whatever.
Well, it doesn't so much break down their barriers or defenses. No, what it does is stimulate that in them. See? If I was doing this with a person who didn't have a humorous bone in their body, who had no sense of cheerfulness or anything like that whatsoever, it would not have any effect. It can only stimulate what the people already have. Now, what I found is that most people are naturally happy. And so that does become usually a very easy thing to stimulate. I recall using something similar to this when I was in a restaurant one time. You see, none of this is coercion. You can't make them do it. They'll pick it up spontaneously and do it on their own. But I was in a restaurant and I saw a waitress who really looked in a bad way. She looked very unhappy and glum. Well, I tuned in and got a symbolic image. And the symbolic image I got was a rainstorm, over a parched field. Okay? Big black thunderclouds, stuff like that. This is a way I have of tuning in symbolically. This is what her mental, emotional state was. So I had just clouds, that's right. It wasn't a rainstorm, it was just clouds. So I had the clouds start raining, and I had them come into the soil, and I had them enrich the soil, and I had flowers, yellow flowers start sprouting out of the soil, and yellow birds start flying around. And I was just having fun sitting there drinking my coffee, playing this mental game of my own. And when she came back out of the kitchen, she smiled and told a joke with a customer over here. I smiled at another customer over here, came over and filled my coffee and smiled at me. All right? Something happened. Some message got across that she responded to on her own, and it helped her feel happier. It's a simple way in which this thing has been and can be used. From yellow, let's move into green. The emotion associated with green is harmony. Yeah, harmony is an emotion. Harmony in the sense of peace with the world around you, including peace with and between people, and peace between you and the environment. There is a harmonious interaction between you and the environment. There's a harmonious interaction between you especially and green plants. As most of you know, there is a relationship there that we absolutely need as human beings, because we breathe in oxygen, which the plants give off. We breathe out carbon dioxide, which the plants breathe in and need. So we have this sharing relationship. It's a harmony. It's a balance. When we do away with all the humans, then we get out of balance. When we do away with all the plants, we also get out of balance. But there is a feeling of harmony with nature, of harmony with your environment, of harmony with people around you. This is a feeling, an emotion. And this is the one we associate with green. In any kind of a situation, then, where you are trying to help the relationships of people, either yourself and others or others and others, you can surround yourself with and expand outward this green. And again, here you can use other kinds of associations as well to help give you a real sense of this happening. Green plants obviously comes to mind. Sure, abundant tropical greenery, if you like, green grass, anything that gives you a kind of a sense of greenness that goes around, and a smell, freshly mown grass. Well, if anybody can recall what that smells like, very distinctive smell that will help to give your own subconscious a stronger sense that something's really happening, of what you want it to do, to make it more real. All right, so you have this green. I used this one time in an office that I went to work in that was full of rumors and backbiting, and it was really a terrible place. Well, in this particular place, I used it every day, and I noticed, as I went along, that two of the worst people in there decided to find another job. And the rest of the people started getting along better and better. Well, which is what I wanted, because I didn't like hassle. And it just became a nice working relationship. And I used to just sit in my office, and all I did was imagine myself surrounded by green and having that green spread out through the walls and into the whole building where we worked. But it was noticeable enough for the boss to come in one day and say, he says, I don't know if it's got anything to do with you or not, but this place is a lot better place to work in since you've been here. He picked up something on some level, okay? Because physically, I didn't do anything. I was, nice to everybody that I dealt with, but I didn't go out of my way trying to patch up anything. I just sent out that green light, and that was felt. Okay, from green, go to blue. Now, blue is associated with the emotion of tranquility. That's peace within. If green is peace, harmony without, blue is the peace within. And there are lots of wonderful associations that you can make with this. When you start learning to surround yourself with blue of any shade that suits you, it can be turquoise or it can be a sky powder blue or whatever you like. You feel this great sense of peace, you feel this great sense of, along with that peace comes a sense of security and confidence, naturally going along with it. It's a very quiet, a very calming, beautiful kind of thing. Some of the associations that you can make visually, of course you can imagine blue flowers, blue cornflowers or bachelor buttons or things like that around. You can imagine a blue sky around you with fleecy white clouds floating around it if you like. That's an easy one to do. And that's a very nice one. But what I found for a smell is the smell either of a sea breeze, like you can smell the salt air, which reminds you of the ocean, or the smell of just after a rainstorm. Just after the rain has stopped falling and you walk outside and you smell that incredibly fresh, negatively ionized air, negative in a positive sense here. Okay. And that can give you that kind of an association with it. And if you need anything of a taste sensation, imagine yourself drinking a glass of calming water. Okay. Or you can hear a waterfall, if you like. Or feel the spray from ocean spray or waterfall on your skin. Any of those kinds of things will really give you the great sense of that, and you can associate those with the blue. With the blue. You can put the blue around yourself, again, like I said. You can put it around another person who seems to be agitated and troubled and confused, and that'll help to clear their mind and help to calm them down a great deal. I did this once with a dog, and it worked nice. He was keeping me up late at night, and so I just sent a nice little cloud of blue over across the yard, surrounded that dog with it, and he quieted right down. I taught a family how to do this. It was a good family. Now they're not anymore, but at that time I almost scared them out of their wits. Because we're sitting downstairs and their daughter was fussing and upset, and the wife went upstairs to fix her and came down, went upstairs to fix her and came down. Finally I said, let's try something, okay? Okay. So next time the kid starts to get fussy, right? All right. A few minutes later, the kid starts to get fussy. I says, before she moved, I says, okay, let's all imagine that the baby is surrounded by a beautiful blue light. They looked at me funny and said, okay, what do we got to lose? As soon as we did that, baby stopped fussing. And the girl looked at me, the woman looked at me, with her eyes real wide and strange. I said, okay, stop it then, don't do it anymore. They didn't do it anymore. A few minutes later, the baby started fussing. I said, do it again. Baby quieted down. 3 times it happened like that, till I finally realized, and the 3rd time I didn't do anything. I told them, you do it. And so now they use this regularly. But it was kind of weird that first time, since I didn't give them any preparation. But it has a lot to say for their open-mindedness, that they went ahead and tried it. Okay, from blue, we'll move into violet. Violet, purple, like this magnificent shirt I'm wearing tonight. This is associated with the emotion of reverence. Now, in the ancient days, of course, it was associated with royalty because royalty was associated with the gods, and we get that same kind of thing. Okay? That emotion, that sensation, that feeling of reverence. When you feel kind of awestruck by something spiritual or something so incredibly beautiful that it seems spiritual. Now this is a light, again, that you can use on yourself. This is a light that you can share with others. This is a light that you can use when you go into meditation. Let's say you're working with your light all day long, and you go into meditation, you can put violet around you. Okay? If you're doing a kind of meditation in which you want to reach spiritual heights, if you're doing any kind of prayer or associating or conversing or just kidding around with God, hey, God invented humor, all right? You can laugh with God. He appreciates good jokes too. And even then you can be reverent. So when you are surrounding yourself with this, you're giving a whole different message to yourself. And again, it's peaceful and calming, but in a totally different way than the blue. I haven't used this a great deal with other people, but I do know of one instance by someone else who did. And they used it with an alcoholic. And without any coercion of any kind, all they did was keep having this person surrounded with the violet light. And this person began on their own to change his ways. Began seeking ways to stop drinking and found them. Began changing behavior patterns that were leading to it. And decided to make himself into a better person. All without this first person saying anything or demanding anything. So the violet light in that case did have that effect.
Would you say he developed reverence for himself?
I have no idea, because I didn't do it. Could be. He may have begun to have a reverence for his own life, for life in general. And it may have helped to put him back in touch with his own higher self. Now we come to the last one, the white light itself. Being able to be used in all these same ways, this is the light of love. Aloha.